You had prepared. You rehearsed in the mirror. You read the job description 3 times. You pressed your shirt. You arrived 5 minutes early. And then they asked you the one question you knew was coming, and you still lost the room. Tell me about yourself. 4 words, an open door, and most professionals, educated, accomplished, genuinely qualified professionals, walk through that door and immediately start talking themselves out of the job. Here is what actually happens in that moment. The question lands, the silence feels like a threat, and the brain, in its panic, defaults to the one thing it knows how to do under pressure: fill the space. So you start at the beginning: college degree, first job, second job, the role before this one, that project you're proud of, the team you managed, the system you implemented. And somewhere around the 3rd minute, when you are still talking and they have stopped writing, the decision has already been made. Not because you weren't qualified, but because you gave them too much, too fast, in the wrong order, with no apparent understanding of what they actually needed to hear. This is the fundamental error, treating "tell me about yourself" as an invitation to narrate your career, when it is, in fact, a diagnostic test for how you think under pressure. Senior interviewers are not listening for your resume. They have your resume. They are listening for signal. They are asking, can this person filter? Can this person prioritize? Do they know what is relevant and what is noise? Most people fail that test inside the first 60 seconds. And here is the mechanism behind why it goes wrong. It is not a preparation problem. It is a psychological one. The impulse to over-explain in high-stakes situations is a fear response. It is your nervous system confusing thoroughness with safety. You believe that if you give them more, they will find more value. But authority does not work that way. Precision communicates confidence. Volume communicates anxiety. The professional who speaks less, says more, and stops at exactly the right moment, that is the professional who commands the room. Before we break down the exact philosophical shift required to master this dynamic, I want you to know you do not have to construct these responses from scratch under pressure. I have mapped out the exact word-for-word formulas for "tell me about yourself," for curveball questions, for salary negotiations, for everything in between, into a single premium resource called How to Command Respect in 2 Minutes or Less, the high-stakes cheat sheet. It is linked in the description below. It costs less than a single business lunch, and it is the tactical insurance policy you can pull up on your phone 60 seconds before you walk into that room. Download it, study it, use it. Now, let us look at the philosophy. There is a Stoic principle that the modern professional world has almost entirely forgotten. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of the most formidable philosophical minds in history, taught his students one discipline above all others. Not the discipline of effort, not the discipline of ambition, the discipline of necessary speech. He wrote, "Let silence be the general rule, or let only what is necessary be said, and in few words." Let that sit. In a culture that rewards the loudest voice in the room, that treats verbosity as a sign of intelligence, that confuses activity with authority, Epictetus identified 2,000 years ago the one behavior that separates the truly powerful from the merely loud: necessary speech. Not silence for its own sake, not passivity, not shrinking. Necessary speech, the ruthless elimination of everything that does not serve the purpose of the moment. Now, apply that principle to a job interview. When an interviewer asks, "Tell me about yourself," the necessary speech is not your full career history. The necessary speech is the precise, curated answer to the question they're actually asking, which is, "This is why you are the right person for this specific role, and can you prove it in under 2 minutes?" Everything else, the internship from 12 years ago, the anecdote about how you got into the industry, the pivot you made in 2018, that is not necessary speech. That is noise dressed as content. Here is where traditional career advice fails people at a foundational level. The standard coaching you'll hear, speak more, be more assertive, project confidence, take up space, is not wrong in every context, but in the specific high-stakes context of the opening minutes of an interview, following that advice will cost you the offer. Because taking up space with words is not the same as commanding space with precision. Consider the behavioral psychology at work in an interview room. The interviewer is conducting a rapid, often unconscious assessment of cognitive clarity. They are watching for decision-making quality. How does this person handle ambiguity? How do they respond when the parameters are undefined? Do they self-regulate, or do they reach for volume to mask uncertainty? When you ramble, you answer all three of those questions in the wrong direction simultaneously. You signal, I struggle with ambiguity. I cannot self-regulate under mild pressure. I default to volume when I'm uncertain. And those are exactly the signals that eliminate candidates, not at the final round, but in the first 3 minutes, before you've even had the chance to demonstrate what you actually know. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If it is not right, don't do it. If it is not true, don't say it." The interview application of this is precise. If it is not relevant to why you are the right candidate for this specific role, don't say it. Not because your full story is not valuable, but because the interviewer is not in a position to extract value from unfiltered information. They are pattern matching. They are managing a hiring funnel. They are looking for candidates who can do the work that every professional must do in a high-functioning organization. Filter signal from noise and deliver conclusions efficiently. Your "tell me about yourself" answer is your first and most visible demonstration of whether you can do that. And that reframe, that philosophical pivot, is where the transformation begins. You are not telling your story, you are solving their problem. Their problem is, we have a role, it requires specific capabilities, and we need to determine in the next 45 minutes whether this candidate has them. Your job in the first 2 minutes is to resolve that uncertainty, cleanly, precisely, without asking them to work for it. The professional who understands this doesn't ramble. They can't ramble, because when you truly internalize that this question is not about biography, it's about relevance, everything that is irrelevant falls away on its own. That's the mindset shift. Now let's build the architecture. The framework is called the Structured Relevance Architecture. 4 segments, strict time allocation, 0 filler. Here's how it works. Segment 1, the anchor, 10 seconds. This is one sentence that orients the interviewer to who you are professionally at the highest level of abstraction. Not your job title, not your company name, your professional identity. Example, I am an operations leader with 8 years of experience building systems that reduce cost and increase throughput in high-complexity environments. That's it, one sentence. The interviewer now has a container. They know what category of professional you are. Everything that follows will land inside that container with clarity rather than floating in undefined space. Segment 2, the evidence, 30 to 45 seconds. This is 2 or 3 specific results-oriented statements drawn from your most recent and most relevant experience. Not responsibilities, results. The distinction is critical. Responsibilities tell the interviewer what your job description said. Results tell them what you actually did with the role. Senior interviewers don't hire job descriptions, they hire impact. So instead of, I was responsible for managing a cross-functional team, you say, I led a team of 12 through a full system migration, delivered 3 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget by 14%. The specificity is not decoration, it's credibility. Vague claims are unverifiable, results are not. Keep this segment to 2 or 3 statements, no more. You are not trying to be comprehensive, you are trying to be convincing. Segment 3, the bridge, 15 to 20 seconds. This is the pivot that most candidates never make, the explicit connection between your background and this specific role. Example, I am particularly drawn to this role because your team is navigating a significant scaling challenge right now, and that is precisely the environment where my background produces the highest value. This one sentence does something most candidates never achieve in an entire interview. It tells the interviewer that you have done your research, that you understand their problem, and that you are not here because you want a job. You are here because you can solve a specific problem they have. That reframe changes the power dynamic of the entire conversation. Segment 4, the handoff, 5 seconds. One sentence, clean close, return control. I would love to walk you through any part of that in more detail, wherever is most useful to you. You stop. You do not add one more thing. You do not soften the close with a nervous laugh or a qualifier. You deliver the handoff and you wait. The ominous silence that follows is not. A vacuum is authority. It is the signal that you are in control of your own communication, and by extension, that you will be in control in the rooms that matter most to the organization. Now let us talk about the 3 mechanical errors that will undermine this framework even when you know it. Error 1, the upward inflection. When your voice rises at the end of a statement, you have converted a declaration into a question. You are unconsciously asking the interviewer to validate what you just said. Keep your inflection flat or downward at the end of every statement. You are not seeking approval, you are delivering information. Error 2, the bridge filler. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, every syllable of that phrase costs you credibility in real time. If you have not finished a thought, pause. Do not fill the pause with noise. A deliberate pause is executive. A filler phrase is fear made audible. Error 3, the unsolicited apology. I know this is a lot. Sorry, let me back up. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but these phrases are professional self-harm. They do not endear you to the interviewer. They signal that you do not trust your own answer. And if you do not trust it, why should they? Practice the framework. Time it. 2 minutes, 4 segments, clean stop. You will be one of fewer than 5% of candidates who deliver this question with that level of structural control. And when you shift from trying to impress them with volume to trusting that precision is the only thing that actually moves them, the entire dynamic of the interview changes. You stop performing, you start leading. Which brings us to the tactical question I get asked most often. What about the curveball questions? When they say, "That's interesting. Can you tell me about a time you failed?" Or, "Why did you leave your last role?" Or the one nobody prepares for, "What makes you better than the other candidates we're interviewing today?" That is where the framework alone is not enough. You need word-for-word templates you can deploy with zero cognitive load under pressure. When you shift your mindset from seeking validation to executing structural precision, the power dynamic in that room shifts completely. But under real pressure, in a live interview with someone you have never met, assessing you in real time, flawless execution requires a pre-built blueprint, not improvisation. If you want the exact word-for-word phrasing to handle this question and every curveball that follows, salary questions, failure questions, the "where do you see yourself in 5 years" trap, real-time objection handling, you can download the complete How to Command Respect in 2 minutes or less high-stakes cheat sheet via the link in the description. It is a zero-fluff, immediately deployable resource built specifically to protect your authority and your earning potential for less than the cost of a single business lunch. The link is below. Use it before your next interview. Now, let us close with the principle that makes all of this matter. Here is the truth that nobody in the career coaching industry will say plainly. Your communication precision is not a soft skill, it is a revenue variable. every offer extended or withheld, every promotion decided in a room you were not in, every client who chose you or did not, every negotiation where you walked away with more or less than you were worth. All of it, every single one of those outcomes was influenced by how precisely, how deliberately, how authoritatively you communicated at the critical moment. The professional who rambles in interviews does not just lose that particular job, they train the market to undervalue them. They signal repeatedly across every high-stakes room they enter that they are someone who processes in public, who has not done the filtering before they speak, and that signal compounds over time into a career trajectory that consistently pays less, promotes slower, and demands more from you than it returns. This is not dramatic, it is actuarial. It is the mathematics of professional reputation. Epictetus did not teach necessary speech because silence is virtuous. He taught it because unnecessary speech reveals the unguarded mind, and the unguarded mind is not trusted with power. The professional who has mastered the discipline of filtered, purposeful, precisely timed communication does not just perform better in interviews, they are perceived differently in every professional context, in meetings, in presentations, in performance reviews, in negotiation rooms, on calls with clients they have never met, in every arena where words are the currency of credibility. Command over your own communication is command over your own narrative, and command over your narrative is the most underrated form of professional leverage that exists. You do not need to be the most experienced person in the room. You do not need the most prestigious credential. You need to be the person in the room who, when they speak, causes others to listen, not because they are loud, but because every word they say appears to have been chosen with deliberate intention. That's what this framework builds, not a performance, a practice, a discipline you install and then operate from as your professional default. Begin with the tell me about yourself answer, build the 4 segments, practice the clean stop, eliminate the fillers, the apologies, the upward inflections, time yourself, 2 minutes. And if you're walking into an interview this week, don't rely on memory alone. Download the cheat sheet, study the templates, and walk into that room prepared at a level that most candidates will never reach. True authority is not the loudest voice, it is the most controlled one. If this psychological transformation brought real transformation to your professional life today, press the like button, share this with one ambitious colleague who is preparing for a high-stakes interview right now, and subscribe to Thrive with Esther to join a circle of professionals who are building intentional, precision-led careers. Protect your time, protect your focus, and click the link below to arm yourself with the complete How to Command Respect in 2 minutes or Less high-stakes cheat sheet, your word-for-word tactical blueprint for the moments that define your career trajectory. Your next move begins with the video on your screen right now.